flirts and the energy that went into, you know, seeing each other and calling one another and spending time with one another and conversations. It's all time and energy and energy. And then you decided to commit to that person, and maybe you committed and you live with them now, or you went a step further and you decided to get married, and then you had children and it all stopped. What's it? You stopped talking. You stopped putting the time in, the energy. All the energy was up front for the chase. And then you got married, had kids. No energy, no time, you know. And it's easy to find 1,000 excuses of why you don't sit down and actually have the conversations. And 9 out of 10, it boils down to the fear of rejection, the fear that you may lose someone, the fear that telling them the truth and the integrity of that may cost you on a level that you don't want to endure because it's painful. Yet, if you can move forward, and we've spoke about this, and it is a baby step, but if you just take that sort of 10 seconds of courage and move forward and know that what you're saying is coming from an open heart, then actually what you do is you move forward with love, you know. And all the families that I've helped, that you have seen, that people say to me, Joe, you did a great job with that family. I just facilitated. It came from all of those families. Those families had the love. Those families woke up really conscious every day of the commitment that they were going to make to work with me to make their family circumstances better. So I thank, you know, and I'm saying this again because I say it many times, but I thank, you know, the hundreds of families over the years that have had the courage to come forth and ask for my help, and to do it knowing that they were doing it with 2 camera, 2 sounds, you know, a small little tiny group of us, me in the house, because they made a difference for millions of people in over 149 territories around the world, from people who are listening now, in looking at them and going, well, actually, look what they did. Look what the tools they did. Look what they learned. Look how it opened them up. And if they can do it, I can. And that, to me, never gets old. That's the superpower, right?
There's 2 things I actually want to touch on. And so, guys, if you are just joining us, drop in some questions. We are answering them live. Also, if you want to do a question sticker, we're going to also be taking some of those, and let us know where you're joining us from. So, okay, there's 2 things that you actually said there. There's, oh God, I just went into a whole preamble and completely forgot what I was going to say. Oh, okay. So you sorry, you are a freaking amazing tool, and my show Women of Impact is an amazing tool, but you have to take the tool and build the house yourself. We can help give you some form of blueprint, but hey, the blueprint may not work for you, right? If you want to build a shed and you got a blueprint for a garage, okay, that's not going to work. So I'll
give you the foundation. I'll give you the foundation, but you've got to put the windows in, and you've got to build that roof, you know, and it comes with the tools that you are given, because we are not all given those tools and those life skills as kids, you know. We're not given those. And we also are recognizing, as we are living our life, that children highlight a lot of circumstances that we need to discuss moving forward, and we learn about ourselves. So families will say to me, well, we never had this problem before, we had kids. I'm like, well, maybe you never had the dilemma of how do we, you know, work at home raising kids, but you certainly needed to work on your communication. And children highlighted that for you. They just, you know, there was your textbook. You know, I've written 6 books. When I go into families' homes, I am a visual textbook of being able to help families. But when the children turn up, they are the Sharpie highlighter. They just highlight those pieces in the book. Okay, I need to work on that. Oh, this is now making me have to think about the virtues or the life skill that I need to sharpen up or let go of in order to be in a space where there's more harmony. And that's the point, is to create more harmony and more functional behavior, because what I'm doing essentially is breaking the mold so that we can become more conscientious of how we parent, so that we take the good bits that we loved as adults and recognize the pieces that do not gel with us and do not feel great because they were emotionally triggered when we had kids. And that can do that. A life event as having children can rehash and emotionally trigger trauma or past events that were difficult for you to overcome and that you are learning to live with every day as a young adult, or maybe an older adult when you decide to have kids. Or just by watching the show, it triggers, you know, it triggers perhaps this self-awareness of how you were raised yourself, and that may trigger some emotional circumstances that you have to process whilst you're watching. But if that work gets done, meaning if you can open the door to working on that homework, then actually what happens is you evolve. And I'd like to say that we can look at ourselves and feel that we're in a better space every day, because we're learning every day. You know, we're under construction every day. We don't all know it. You know, we're learning every day. I'm learning every day when I'm with a family, you know, how to connect with them, to be able to serve them the best I can.
Yeah, I freaking love that, gal. All right, we got a ton of questions, so let's just
Oh, great.
I want to do some massive shout outs to Romania, London, Portugal, Monaco, Sweden, India, Norway, Melbourne, South Africa, Argentina, New York, Iran, and Atlanta.
Yes.
Freaking amazing.
Hello, all of you.
Okay, so apparently people are telling me to take off my headset.
Oh, I think it's a bit muffled, maybe. Is it muffled, guys? Is that what you can hear?
Is that better?
I think that's better.
It is better. Oh,
yes,
interesting.
guys, do you think it's better?
All right, waiting for people to let me know. Is it better?
I think it sounds less muffled, maybe.
Okay. All right. Well, by Michelle, I know you're watching. You need to let me know if the audience are okay. Much better. All right. Amazing. Okay.
Yeah. Good.
So I'm gonna pick a sticker question. In fact, can you move the camera? The sticker question is gonna go under your chin.
All right. Hold on.
If that makes sense.
Do I need to move something?
Just so that we can see your face.
Hold on. Am I going up or
no,
down?
Wrong way. Wrong way. Keep going.
This way?
There it is. Perfect.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
All right, so the question is, let's start it off. How do you set boundaries with your kids when you're all at home?
The same way you would do before a pandemic, and you're going to learn now. So after this pandemic has gone away and we are in a space of more clear and safety, setting boundaries with your kid right now is being able to recognize what those rules are and not compromising those, because with healthy boundaries come healthy relationships in any sense, whether that's with co-workers, whether that's in a relationship. It's about respecting the needs of others whilst respecting the needs of what you need as well. So the boundaries right now that I'm seeing a lot of are concerned around space. So families who are homeschooling, who are meeting the needs of different ages, you know, all those kids are like, I'm bored, or I don't know what to do next, or I've run through the gamut of everything I've had. And I think what's important is to be able to have boundaries that create a space for each child. So I've spoken to a lot of families that have been in one apartment, or there's many of you, or sandwich generations in one home. And I think it's important to be able to designate what I call bubble space, right? So the reality of being able to have quiet time for younger ones, looking at your routine and when it fits into when babies are going down to sleep. If you've got 3 teenagers in one bedroom, you know, designate the bedroom and allocate time so that each child can spend time in that bedroom and knowing that they all go in there when it's time to sleep. It's about recognizing that there is a time in the day where it is you all needing your own space, your own bubble. I can be in the same room as you but respect the fact that this is quiet time. If you're doing a puzzle or you're reading or I'm on my phone, it's our time in the space that we're in. So it's a location. It may be one chair, it may be the desk, but you're all in different places, maybe in one room, and respecting what is required. It's harder for younger children because they cross those boundaries. And so the way to create them is through being able to teach your children how to play and stay, play and away, which is a technique that I teach families, which is to recognize how to teach your child how to play the game or to do the puzzle, and to step away for a moment and let them know that you're coming back, and then to come back to the actual game so that they get used to playing on their own. Because from around, you know, from around say 18 months to 6 years, there'll be a lot of parents right now that will say, my kid's just following me everywhere. You know, I'm just getting the chant of mum, 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 you know, dad, 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 I want to do this, now I want to do this, dad, dad, dad. And that kind of in your head just feels like a lot. And you're like, I just want the cut off. So it's the easiest way to set the boundaries with younger children. With older ones, designate a space, right? And then a piece of furniture, so that you can all be in the same room, but understand that this is a space where you're in your own bubble, in the personal space that's being provided for you all. Also, it can be staggered. If there is 2 of you, then that space can be staggered because you can team. So you can perhaps go out for a walk at a time where you need some quiet time, and look at where that happy place is. Some people escape in their own bubble because they put the headsets on and they take themselves somewhere else with music. Other families, you know, have said, look, the only sanctuary I get right now is to be able to go in my bathroom and take a moment, then go in the bathroom and take a moment. You know, we're dealing with circumstances that are unprecedented. However, the life skill of creating boundaries, when you say, look, this is what's expected and here are the rules, is about recognizing the circumstance that you're under and recognizing what is warranted for perhaps discipline and a consequence, and what isn't because of maybe underlying emotional issues. So taking what could be complex and simplifying it. Has your child always been that way? Do they need to learn the boundaries, which comes in around 18 months? Or have they always crossed over and not listened, which could be due to them just being very impulsive and needing to sharpen their auditorial skills? Or is it just defiance and they're just crossing? You just break all the time with your behavior. So once the boundaries have been put in place and there are rules that enhance, because boundaries are about enhancing, right? You know, they're boundaries so that we can have bridges to create more harmony. Then you'll find that it'll be calmer in your household. And sometimes they're reinforced by the space we're in, or when children are younger, in recognizing that this is the rule and we don't compromise that. We stick with it because as parents, we know what it's going to create. It's kind of like what the government did. The government turned around and said to us, the government said to us, we're pulling back, we're doing lockdown. They reset the bar so that now we're in phase 2, we will start a new normal. Yeah, you got me there?
Okay, sorry, you froze for a sec. I just want to actually kind of go back to something that you just said about boundaries, because it's such a literally a mirror of how me and my husband set boundaries with each other. So I absolutely, we discuss, because sometimes we work from home, and a lot of people now are working from home, and so there were times where you just don't know when someone's in the zone, when someone is concentrating, when someone, and so we had to set boundaries. And it became as simple, because what you said is sometimes it can be simple. It became as simple as I would switch a lamp on. And if the lamp was on, that meant I don't want to talk about work, I'm in my personal time. And so he would walk into a room with like a business question, and he'd see the lamp on, he's like, love you, and then he'd turn around and walk away. And so having things like that. Like he wears the headphones, like you said, and he has two types of headphones. One is those big over the ear ones, and the other ones are the little AirPods. And he's like, anytime I have the big one, he basically calls them, if you guys have kids, the F off headphones. And so he was just honest. He's like, these are my F off headphones. If you see me wearing them, do not talk to me. And so it's very respectful. You have to respect them. Now, sometimes though, I'm like, but if I need to talk to him, is it like, don't ever talk to him? So I would walk in and I kind of stand there and I count for about 10 seconds. And if he doesn't take them off, I just walk back out. And we've written those rules. I mean, written them down. We've actually sat down and said, how do we overcome them? Do you agree? Yes. Do you agree? Yes. Amazing. Let's make a pact. Great. Now that's
communication though.
Exactly.
You know, the thing is that it takes both parents to understand that it's not coming from a place that's personal, because as soon as you think it's personal, it becomes about your ego. It's not personal. You know, it's about how to respect individually everybody's time and space, and then how you can both connect in a much better space for younger children. So say like an 11-year-old who might have a 6-year-old, like, you know, we are in a circumstance where a lot of families are blended. They may have had a marriage or relationship and had a child when they were younger, and now they've got a 6-year, 7-year gap with a younger child. I tell them to do colour codes, green or red, or literally, if the child can read, it's private time, you know, or your time, and they turn it over, you know, on their on their doors. Listen, I know a good friend right now is watching. I saw him come up, called Tim, who is a makeup artist who I worked with when I first started doing Super Nanny. Hello, darling. He will testify that literally I would need my process of being able to work with the family, and when I needed my own time, you know, and in production, you've got people coming in going, right, what we're going to do next, what we're going to do next. I'm like, I need my time. I would literally put a sign up on the door, you know, back in 20 minutes. That's what I would put, like, I'm off. I need this space right now for me to do the work that I do with a family. And it's really hard for people to understand that if they take it personally. But in being able to have exactly the beauty of what you had, which is a great idea. I hope there are lots of parents out there who are with their partners listening to that. What it was you both coming together with what you felt would be a good sign, and then being able to communicate that to one another and know that it's not personal. It's a time when this is about sustainability. You know, we are seeing, as I say, around this country, around the world, actually, because let's face it, we've got people listening around the world. Around the world, we are seeing government phase us in. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. There is not a vaccine right now, right? So governments right now are looking at their countries and making decisions on how they feel we are going to go and integrate back into society under phases right now. And the importance of that is being able to recognize, you know, how we do that safely and sustain a quality of life under a new norm. And that's exactly what we're doing here with families. It's about sustainability and not just existing until the pandemic goes away. We don't want it to just exist and see it as this is a stretch of time. What we want to do is to say that we actually came out of this time, even though it was challenging for us in the first 2 months, we actually came out recognizing this needs to be a priority. And I actually liked it when you went to work at this time and you shut off by 5, because it gave us our time together around the dining table. And actually, when you go back to work and you're in the office, can you do the same again? Can you shut shop at that time so at least we can have meals together? And I think it's going to make families, I hope, question what their new norm is in a really profound way that meets the needs of everyone in the family, because it is possible, but you have to prioritize what's important for your entire family, because it's the only way we're going to stay connected in a world that has us feeling so disconnected.
Yeah.
So if you can remember that, how do we stay connected in a world that seems so disconnected?
And
You have many different things to do so.
Yeah, I want to really press on what you just said, and we've got so many questions, but as you know, me and you can go on for hours. Guys, if you're just joining us, we did just release an episode on women of impact, so go over to YouTube and watch me and her go deep in a lot of these conversations. There is one thing that you just said, actually, that I just want to emphasize, because I so believe it, and this is why I freaking love you. Not only are you just so freaking amazing at giving advice on how parents can navigate their children, but you're all about mindset. You're about mindset in the parent, right? So even everything you're saying, I don't have kids, but I can still apply it. So I think you are so freaking universal. You're not just the super nanny, you're like the super partner nanny. I don't know what you freaking call it, but like you have mindset advice on how people can take it. So the point I want to actually just touch on quickly is what you said about don't just like bear through this. And to me, I harp on about this a lot, but stories are powerful. And we all talk about, when we were a kid, this was the story I was told. So that's why I'm like I am now. Like, storytelling about who you were is so powerful. So right now, you're writing the story. What is the story you want to say about the pandemic? Is the story that you just bared through it, that you got through it, that it was a pain, that the kids drove you nuts? Like, what is that story you want to tell? And start writing it now, so that when you look back, you can say exactly what you said. Like, oh my God, it made me realize I can have dinner with my partner. It made me realize how precious this thing meant to me. So I just want to emphasize that, because I thought that was so powerful. I'm going to go to the game.
Thank you, world. Because in a moment that I thought was a negative, it actually was a positive.
Right.
The world took a moment to breathe. And when it did that, it meant that I had to too. Right. And it's about, I always say to parents, the way to be able to feel empowered is to recognize that the glasses that you put on have got to be what you can see that is a positive, and not what's being taken away from you, but what's being given to you. What is being given to you right now? I've over the last several weeks, yesterday I posted, what have you valued most about today? It's been beautiful to read those posts. What families, when you actually write posts that get families into the practice. Now, it's a practice. It's not something you just switch on. It's a practice to be able to be with gratitude, to be mindful about what you are being given today, rather than what's being taken away from you today. Because whatever is being taken away from you, you're always being given tenfold anyway. You might not see it now, but you will see it later. But
that's like so human nature, right? It's like we may have, and in fact, this actually happened to me yesterday. I'm so glad you brought this up. So I had this big meeting, and at the end, people were like, oh my God, you did a really good job. You did awesome. And hours after that, what did I do? I beat myself up over one thing that I thought I messed up on. And literally in real time, yesterday, I was like, what are you doing, Lisa? You just, like, for an hour were great. Don't know if I would say I was amazing, but for an hour you were great, and you're beating yourself up over this one freaking thing. And in real time, I was like, stop, don't think it.
I want to talk about that. I want to talk about that right there, because you've just brought something up that I think is really, really important. At that moment, wherever it came from, and you know where, that critic voice came on your shoulder. There it was. And you know where it come from in your life. And for all those families out there, when you want to sit and criticize yourself, you know where that came from too. Whether it was one of your family members that you can really think about, or whether it was from, an extended friend, but that person sat on your shoulder and criticized, right? Not being enough, not remembering this, not doing this. And for every time you hear that voice and you tell yourself that story, you better come with 5 good of what you have done that day. Because again, that doesn't disappear. It doesn't disappear. But what happens with practice is that every moment that that critic sits right there, that monkey sits right there, it's got to be pushed off with 5 other things that you can actually bring to the forefront of saying, but I did this. And actually, I got an opportunity to do that. And my child taught me this today. And actually, I let go of that because it wasn't just that important. It was about me. It was important to me. This was about my ego. This had nothing to do about, you know, whether the child got the sum wrong or the two of them were fighting, you know, over the one thing. It became about me. So I think what's happening as well is that in this moment of how externally we deal with what's happening in the world, internally, there's our sanctuary where we're trying to create more harmony because we're spending more time at home. But then there's the inward emotional triggers and critic voice and everything else that's coming up to the forefront now and bubbling over that we're becoming more conscious of and having to deal with. It means we've got homework too. But what a great time, because it's probably been there for a long time and we've put it off because we had to do carpool, we had to get to the recital, we had to go and pick up the dry cleaning, we had to go and get this deadline done, we had to go and get our medications for our elderly parents that were looking after as well as pick up the kids from daycare. We had you know what I'm saying? Now
and then they end up beating themselves up that you know, dinner was 5 minutes late or that they forgot something.
Yeah, I mean, look, everybody knows I do not subscribe to I just drunk my way through the pandemic from Monday to Friday. Like, I get the joke, right? I get the jokes of like, hey, F it. You know, it is what it is to do. You know, it is what it is today. You know, I get that. I get the reality because I don't come from a space of having 30 years experience of writing textbook. I've sat on the end of beds where parents have said to me, I'm going to get a divorce if this child does not stop crying. You know, my husband doesn't understand me, doesn't lift a finger. And he thinks it must just get done by the magical elves. Like, I get the pressure of that. I've been in the trenches with those families when they've been at breaking point. And as I've navigated, I've cradled them too. So I get what it feels like because I've been there for years doing it with families. But at the end of the day as well, what we have to recognize is that if we don't come together and support each other and step up as couples, as neighborhood, as community, let's reach out to those children's, you know, our children's kids who have got parents who are struggling. Can we do a parental village where if my kid in the class is doing a math subject, maybe we can Zoom and get them all in and one parent can take it for all of them. You know, it's like, how are we going to help each other here through this, as well as how will we help our family individually? And I think that is the conversation that needs to be a continuous dialogue, you know?
Yeah, 100%. All right, we've got some just tons of questions, girl. Let's see what we got.
Somebody asked about 6 kids. I just saw somebody said, how do I give them all quality time? I've got 6 kids.
Yeah,
you can't always do it on one day, and you can't always keep the kids happy on in every day either.
How do you be okay with that though? Like, I totally hear you and I completely agree, but how do you be okay with that? Is it just, you just repeat, you can't do it all?
The same way right now we're being asked to recognize that we're not teachers and that we can only do our best. Like, it's a hard pill to swallow, but for who? The kid or us? Let's face it, what is it really saying? The critic voice, that's what it's saying. You don't know enough. You don't know how to get through your 6th grade's maths homework. You don't know this, you don't know that, you're not smart enough. How come you don't know? It's the critic voice. Who knows everything? You know, they teach the kids stuff differently to how they did when I was at school. I don't know the answers to everything. I'm okay with that, are you? You know, and I think, again, it's the same for families that before the pandemic were going to work. You know, I don't get enough time. Instead of looking at what you don't get enough of, concentrate on the concentrated time you do get. There's only 24 hours in a day. You know, you've only got what you've got to work with, which means you're going to have to prioritize pretty quickly what becomes important and what doesn't. And again, it's a mindset. The same for the mothers. It's a hard pill to swallow. Before the pandemic, mothers going off to work and saying, I feel guilty. I feel guilty. There's no magic dust for it.
Literally, someone said, mum guilt. Someone literally said, mum guilt is the worst.
Yeah, there is no fairy dust for that to alleviate that feeling of going to work when you in your heart wish you had more time with your children. It's not going to go away. But when you can come to a place of accepting what you do have and how you make that count, you'll feel better with that. And what will happen is it will ease. Instead of it feeling like it's banging on your forehead hard, that will start to subside, because now you're changing your mindset and your attitude to, okay, I wish I had more time, but I realize I don't, but I make the most of the time that I do have when I'm home, because that's what career women do. Career women who are out there striving in the offices, doing what they do, which now they're at home doing that, they recognize that they love doing what they do for their careers, and when they come home they feel like great mums doing what they do because they recognize they have this period of time, and so they make it count. So being in acceptance of what you have and how you work with the time you have becomes quality time, not just quantity, but really quality time. And it means you will never rob your kid of a childhood, because the times that you do have with them that are concentrated and of quality time, they're going to remember. They're going to remember.
I love that, girl. All right. Next question. There's so many. I'm like, I don't know what we want to talk about. All right. Let's see. All right. Let's have a look at this one. How do I stop arguing with my children when I'm trying to get calm?
How do I stop arguing with my children when I'm trying to get calm? Oh, it's a vicious cycle for this person, because this person feels that they need to have the last word. And where it comes from, the feeling of needing to have the last word, the feeling of needing to feel in control, the feeling of needing to have that last say, I think is more about an adult's temperament. I think it's more about recognizing that that person will need to look at what they let go of, the perfectionism in themselves, the need to have everything a certain way. And here, trying to get calm, you know, I've spoke about it. You know, Andy and I are good friends. I love Headspace. I talk about it a lot because, you know, he provides a meditation app that I use. They've got sections on there for kids, you know, and I talk about the importance of people going on there. And the reason why is because it brings us to a place of meditation, of calm, of being able to recognize that it regulates better behavior, as well as the importance of our impulsivity and what triggers us to become very angry. So this person clearly is trying to get themselves into a space where they feel calmer because they are feeling overwhelmed, and what it's creating is a threat to them feeling in control, and that threat shows up as fight or flight. So then they start to argue. So this person will need to recognize that within themselves. I'm sure they're shaking their head now. I would ask them to be consistent in the morning and the afternoon with some form of meditation, and to not feel the need to repeat yourself 1,000 times. You tell your child what's happening, that is what it is, and then you move forward. Again, if you put boundaries in place, you don't compromise that. Arguing is to recognize that you have a child who wants to negotiate. Explain why something can't happen and leave it at that. Because the longer you keep talking to your child, the longer you are showing them that you are still engaged in this conversation, and they might just hopefully get you to submit, to say yes, or go on then, or okay. If it's no, it's no. And if it's yes, it's yes.
Dude, I remember you on the show, like this is stuck with me because I'm such a freaking fan. You just always used to say like, this isn't a negotiation. And I would be like, oh my God, I freaking love it. But you're so right, because I mean, look, yes, you said it freaking awesome, because you're so right. People try to negotiate with the kids. And I can think about when I was a kid, I would do that to my parents. And so.
But it's smart, Lisa, look. Lisa is a smart kid. You know, look, here's what I'm saying. And we live in such a polarized world, and parenting has become so polarized. I don't want parents at the North Pole. I don't want parents in the South Pole. I want you in the middle. I want you to be assertive parents, authoritative, not authoritarian. I want you to compromise where you can. I want you to listen and validate. I want you to recognize what you can let go of. Who cares whether Charlie wants to push the stroller with the pram in it and the dolly, or take his bike? Why do you need to control that? Let them have what they want going for the walk. Who cares? But when it comes to, you know, tonight we're doing this and this is why, then that's it. So it's not about North, it's not about South Pole. It's about always meeting in the middle as parents. You cannot lead, guide, and navigate through this experience that will sometimes be exhausting, but really rewarding. In a space of always feeling like you've got to fight for everything and negotiate. Let go of some of that stuff that really does not matter. And your children need to see that you are a parent who is compromising, who does communicate, who does listen and validate what your children have to say. I always say to parents, you know, explain to your teenager why things can't happen. And if they come back to you and say something, don't be first to say you're back talking. They're not back talking. If a teenager has an opinion, it's not back talking unless they deliver it disrespectful.
I was just about to say.
Unless they deliver it disrespectful and they're insultive, then it's back chatting. But teenagers need to feel heard, and their opinions need to count. You can agree to disagree. You are their guardian, after all, their parent. You're making decisions for them as a parent, not a friend. But listen, you know?
Love that. All right, I'm just gonna try and jump on to another question right now. Guys, if you are just watching, check out the interview that we did on Women of Impact with this incredible woman right here. And also this will be released on podcast. So guys, if you do want to re-listen to this, which you definitely should, because this woman has the most amazing advice, check out the podcast of Women of Impact. Okay, I'm going to pick another question. I only read half of it. So if two parents are co-parenting, should the child have a phone? If yes, what's the age a child should have one?
If two parents are co-parenting, should the child have a phone? I think it does. Well, first and foremost, you know, what kind of a relationship do you have with the other co-parent, right? Because parental alienation is real, you know, and there are a lot of families that make it about themselves, and then the kid is stuck in the middle, right? And if you are dealing with a partner who is incredibly difficult, then I think it's important to make sure that there is some form of legal mediation in making sure that, you know, on a legal standpoint, you have access and communication with your child. However, the reality is you want to work on being able to keep any conversation focused on the child and not the parent, right? So an age for that, I really can't answer specifically, because I do think you have to look at the emotional age of the child. I wouldn't recommend, personally, I would say that a child around the age of perhaps maybe nine years old is in a space where they could have a phone that perhaps it has immediate emergency numbers on, that the person can then call them. You know, especially if you're in a circumstance where it's very difficult with the parent, you know. but I'm always going to tell you the first thing offhand is to be able to set regular times. So the way to be able to create a better relationship with your co-partner is to be able to cohere together with a time, a set time that makes it compliable for both parents to make sure that you're meeting the sole needs of the child. So a lot of parents, and I deal with the stickiness of this in court as well as you know, on a parental consultation level, that it becomes about a one-upmanship for a parent to then say, well, we were busy and we were doing things, you know, and that becomes then about the control and the child being used as a tool. So around the age of 9 years old, if you see emotional maturity with that child, then I think you could give them a phone that's purely used in being able to have a conversation with that child under a difficult circumstance and making sure that it is legal as well. You know, there's no cutting corners with this. There's no cutting corners. You need to do it professionally if you don't have an amicable relationship with your ex-partner. And at the same time, if you do have a great one, then no. Because if you have one, then it's not necessary because communication is there with the co-parent, and then you're able to be able to work out a time and say, look, I'm doing this. Perhaps just after dinner would be a great time, or just after breakfast, you know, to talk to the kid, you know, and then to have a conversation then. So I only find it's ever necessary if there is still a lot of heat, you know, a relationship between couples where it's still raw and feeling very damaged in respects to how the relationship finished in the first place. If not, it's not necessary, you know, it wouldn't be necessary because the communication would be in a good space. Yeah. However, in this time right now, I know that there are legal laws required with respects to co-parenting, but I have to say, I'm going to encourage most co-parents to really talk to one another about the importance of kids going back and forth and how much they're exposed to. This is a time for co-parents to be working together to minimize the risk and the exposure that children have if they're having to go to the hardware shop twice or the supermarket twice with each parent, you know, so be wise on those circumstances right now.
That's a really good takeaway. I wouldn't have even considered that. Okay, this one I actually really like, and I want to kind of maybe caveat. So they said, my son is almost 13 and has an attitude and only wants to play Fortnite. How do I get him to engage? So let's even just say Fortnite is a substitute for other parents that are watching on, they're doing something that the parents may not agree with, and they're trying to get them to stop, and they have an attitude about it. How would you suggest they approach this?
Well, clearly this right now, excuse me, clearly this right now shows me that the child has been allowed to continue to play Fortnite. And my concern right now with this circumstance would be the addictive nature in which all the facts we know right now about that particular video game. And let's talk about video gaming overall, okay? Before the pandemic, I was helping families because the video games and too much technology was being used as a crutch, okay? Now parents are home and they're recognizing how to regulate the technology through forms of social media for online socialization, right, for teenagers. The games that they can play and how to keep that regulated, and then how iPads and tablets and computers are being used on an educational level for schooling, for art classes, and for all the other extracurriculums that we're now finding online, which are marvelous, from virtual museum tours, you know, to Cub Scouts, right? This clearly shows me that these parents made a decision to continue to allow this 13-year-old to play too much of the game that he's into right now, which it says here, Fortnite. And what we are probably seeing now are the side effects and symptoms of the impact of playing too much video games, which are the signs of withdrawal, moodiness, not wanting to hold conversations, having bad attitudes, being disrespectful, wanting to eat in their bedrooms, not wanting to engage with the rest of the family, not wanting to go out on walks or to do any activity, only wanting to eat carbs and sugary foods to keep up, okay, what is being sucked and drawn from those video games, okay? And now it's being met with mummy here, it says, engage with mummy and having a positive attitude. How do we change that? We need to wean these children off of the video games. It's too much time. And we do that by having more structure, more of a framework. So as I'm giving you the foundation, I'm now going to give you the pinning of your house so that you can build your walls. And that is the structure of a routine. Creates time for a child to get schoolwork done, to be able to have 3 solid meals a day and some healthy snacks in between, to be able to get out in the fresh air, in the daylight, to be able to move and do exercise or activities that raise our levels of oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, so that we feel in a better space, to be eating as healthy as we possibly can, with the occasional thing that we know here and there that we all do, right? But the reality is that these parents have to make a stance in saying, look, we don't mind, but we've gone overboard. And you can reset the button. So for all those parents right now that say, it's gone too far, I've let it go too far, then punch the reset button and start again. Go in and have that conversation and say to your 13-year-old, you know what, we've been letting you play too much and there's no balance. Like, we all together as a family need to get out. We all need to keep moving. We all need to be, you know, more active. Let's do this together. Let's go on a bike ride together. Let's go on a nature trail together. Let's go, yeah, out together, or just go with your dad, you know, and let's go and keep moving. Let's make sure that you can do some of this schoolwork, but what other hobbies are you interested in as well? It takes the parent to do that for a 13, 14, 15-year-old. And are you going to get slack? Are your kids going to resist? Yeah, of course they are. Yes, they are. And I say, tough. You know why I say tough? You know why I say tough? Because I'm a responsible parent. Because I'm a parent who cares about my kids. Because I'm a parent who can see the signs and symptoms of withdrawal when my child is not on the video game. Because I'm a parent who can compromise. And I don't mind my kids playing a video game here or there, but I've got no balance. And only I am going to change that, right? So that's how we empower ourselves. Be okay with saying, this is what we're going to do. I'm not taking it fully away from you, but what I am saying, it has to be regulated. And as your parent, I'm going to do that.
What do you think about, because I love all the advice you have. And look, anyone watching, I do not have children. I'm only projecting how I think. And so I'm going to take my husband. My husband loves video games. And over time, it became when we all had free time, he was spending his time on video games and we weren't spending time together. So what we ended up doing is we made a pact. And I was like, okay, if I play video games with you for an hour or 2 hours, you then get to do something that I really want. And so I played video games with him for 1 or 2 hours. We really connected. Then after that, he then did something with me for that 1 or 2 hours. And then it became this amazing bonding thing where we were like now playing video games together, but we started to strategize. How can this be good for us? We're like, okay, this is great in communication, because when you're playing on the same team, if I die and he let me die, it's our communication hasn't been great because we haven't told each other where we're going. So we start putting these things in and going, okay, how is this something that we really enjoy? And how do we improve using this mechanism, if you will, to bond, to grow? So like for a kid, I may even suggest, and look, because I always put on like my entrepreneur hat, I can't help it. But part of me would be like, all right, if you want to play video games, come up with an agreement, like you said, because it can spill over.
But look how it works.
What's that?
Here's the problem with that. I'm going to challenge you. Here's the problem with that.
Yeah.
When you're just a couple, it's fine. But with parents, what I've seen from 12, 13 years ago, and we all professionally said this was going to happen, and here we are now. We all said it. If nobody starts to recognize the importance of how we start to use these video games and the technology, and we don't have balance in the technology era, it's going to get out of hand. And we're now here. So it works for just couples to be able to do that. But when you've got 4 other kids, or you've got a newborn, and you've got maybe 3 kids under the age of 6, it becomes a crutch. So the only time the video games work is if you're both enjoying them together and it makes a small window where parent and child or siblings play for entertainment purposes, right?
I hear you.
Or you recognize that you've just allowed your child to have some personal time playing with a virtual friend for a capped amount of time, making sure you can regulate what they're playing. Because the reality is, if not, it's become a crutch. So what I was seeing doing that show, like, as you know, I've been filming season 8 around America. I have been inundated, and you will see, not just on what we've already seen for the new season, but what will be coming out as well in the summer. What you're going to see is families struggling because it became a circumstance where it was used as a crutch, or it was used in a space to bond, but then it wasn't regulated. And there is no communication with two TVs, one parent there, one child there. They're screen rather than this. So if you're both playing a game together for a period of time, it's you and I on the team, we're playing the video games. But if it goes beyond that, then what it does, it creates walls, because it doesn't authentically give you an experience with a child that then becomes an emotional, enjoyable moment, that becomes a memory that you bank in your childhood. Right? And so that's the complications in this circumstance, that for two adults doing that, it's great, you're adults. You've got some form of regulation. You understand the impact on your personal adult relationship. The children, they don't understand that. They just take. They've got no boundaries.
As you was talking, actually made me realize how freaking right you are. And it almost like I started to correlate it to food. So it's like, if you teach your kids to use sugar as a crutch, then it becomes part of their being. Like, is that what you kind of see, like with video games?
Or food.
Crutch.
Well, you know, or food.
Right,
you know,
exactly.
how many of us, when, we feel upset or we feel annoyed about something which was really us being upset, and we just went, I'm going to grab a piece of chocolate.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, what do you do? What do you do instead of that? So again, it's being in a space of, how do I feel? How do I fill up the space in what you're talking about with food? Would be, how do I fill the space when I feel unheard in a relationship? Which I help families and parents with kids, but you're very correct, Lisa. I have spent many years helping the parents in their relationships or in their marriages. And when people turn to food, it's like, what were they feeling? Did they feel no emotional connection? Did they not feel heard? Did they not feel supported? Did they just go and grab another something because they didn't feel that there was an emotional, intimate connection between the couple? And then you're teaching the adults how to learn skills that they weren't maybe taught by their own father, right, or mother, how to do. And in America, there has been this cultural shift of, men don't cry, right? And men don't talk about their feelings. And men don't say that they're feeling like they're going to, have a breakdown, or, we're breaking through that mental health stigma of that men need to talk. Men need to be able to say, hey, I'm having a really crap day today. And actually, I'm feeling very vulnerable. And I feel quite scared today, because they were raised in a generation that was seen as a weakness. We're breaking down those barriers now in saying, look, it makes nobody any less a person to be able to emotionally express how they feel, regardless of gender. It's about how you feel that you can express with the person that you want to be able to express that to. Is the door open? Are you met with reactional behavior? Are you met with compassion and empathy? So again, you speak about food being the filler when we're not having our needs met. And in circumstances working with family, I have seen video games become the filler when families feel overwhelmed and they don't know how to resolve a situation. So let's just put the kids on there, because when they're on there, they're quiet.
Right.
They're there, and I don't have to address it.
Yeah.
And I've helped. I mean, I've helped a lot of predominantly teenage boys. I've actually helped predominantly a lot of teenage boys with addiction, video game addiction. And behind it, because I'm not for somebody to say, let's take away video gaming, let's never video game, let's never do that, right? It's about moderation for everything. But what I found was for the parent, it became just a crutch. They kept them on there because they had 2 younger kids, or because they were going through mental health issues themselves, and it gave them a little piece of quiet. But what it created, the impact of that was detrimental to the child. It may have caused, you know, several particular children who are teenagers, it created epilepsy, you know, for those children, because they were playing too many hours, right? So again, you're looking at the signs and symptoms. But I'd rather come from a place of prevention. Let's let our kids have entertainment through sports or different video games. Let's please, there's a reason why there's parental advisory on these video games. It's not okay, you know, for young children to be playing games that are way beyond their time. Be confident as a parent to say, I appreciate you're doing that, but that's not for my kid.
Not for my kid, yeah.
No, like why don't social media accounts, the people that own Snapchat and Twitter and all these, why don't they cancel the accounts of those kids that are younger than 13, 14 that have accounts? Why don't they just close them down? Why do they allow these children to have them?
Yeah,
you know,
I love everything you're saying, and the big, like, for me, like, again, going back to I don't have kids, but the overarching thing is every time you speak, I'm like, this so relates to me even without a kid. It really is, what are you doing and what is that purpose behind it? Because if you're identifying, and you're 100% right, and I so freaking love that you said that about me playing video games, because you're right, I don't use video games as a crutch. I use the video games as a way to connect with my husband and actually build our relationship versus hiding and running from something. So a lot of people were commenting as well as you were talking, and people have different issues with their kids. And I think that really the overarching takeaway is so powerful in what are they doing, and are they using it as a crutch? If so, you need to identify what that crutch is, the hole that they're filling, as you said, perfectly, is what is that hole that's filling, address that. Because it's not even the video game thing, right? It's what they're turning to as the crutch.
Yeah, I mean, of course we have to, you know, don't go with the herd in this case. You know, it's not about herd mentality. Well, they're all playing Fortnite, so, you know, I don't want my kid to miss out. That's not how that is not how we should be parenting. We don't want our kids to live out, you know, otherwise we'd be letting our 11-year-old daughters go and do stuff that we would be expecting them to do when they're 21, because we don't want anybody to get left out. I remember telling a 14-year-old girl in plain English, her parents were pussyfooting around the conversation about why she couldn't stay out till 1 o'clock in the morning. And I gave it to her straight. I could see that she was mentally and emotionally very mature. You know, she's 14 years old. She wants to stay out till 1 o'clock in the morning. And I said, here's how it goes. You're 14. And here's what happens when you want to start going to these places. Here are the scenarios that you're going to be presented with. And here's why, as your parent, that's not okay for me. And I'm okay if other parents are not okay with how I feel, because how I feel is my priority, because I am raising you and I love you. And she looked at me and said, thanks. Like, you gave it to me straight. Like, I respect that. You know, and so many times with your teenagers, you have to work out, you know, in a very respectful manner, how you are just straightforward with your kids, respectful, and making sure that the appropriate information is in their hands, in being able to help them understand, even if they don't agree with it. Because I'm sure you remember, because I certainly do, when I was like, oh, that's not fair.
Oh, nothing was fair.
Right? You know, so, you know, it's been in that space.
And I love how you broke that down, because growing up, sometimes I got from my parents because I said so. And that would, like, as a kid, that didn't make sense to me. I'm like,
No.
but why? Like,
Yeah.
and every
Or
time
maybe.
every time you explain things, you're always just like, let them know this is what it's like. So guys, actually, if you're just joining us, go check out the episode that we just did on Women of Impact on YouTube, because you give such tactical, like, action advice on what to say to your kids when, you know, they're complaining that they can't go outside, they're complaining that they don't have their friends. Like, you just give a freaking step-by-step, no BS answer on this is how you do it. And I think you even say, like, don't tell them because I said so. Like, that doesn't serve the bigger picture of allowing them to understand and grow from it as well.
Yeah, I don't subscribe to the because I said so, because or young kids will say, can I have that, mummy? And they go, well, maybe. I'm like, what did you just say to them? What does maybe mean? Like, young kids are really linear. Is it a yes or a no?
Right. I want to know the answer. I freaking hate maybes as an adult.
You know, like, we even live in that culture. Before the pandemic, do you remember? It was like, I never quite understood it as coming from England, right? But, you know, I got to America and there was this whole culture shift for me of, hey, so, like, you want to get together on Friday? You know, we're going for a drink. Well, you know, maybe. I'd be like, do you mean maybe? Like, you're going to commit to come on Friday or you're not. No one wanted to commit to anything in case something better was going to come up. But, you know, it's about a commitment. Do you say, yeah, I'll be there Friday? Or, you know, actually, I can't do this Friday, but if you're doing it next Friday, I'll be up for that as well. You know, so, again, the maybes, now, I'm okay with, I need to think about that. Let me think about that for a moment and I'll get back to you.
Okay.
I'm okay with that, you know, because I think sometimes we don't know, like, you know, and kids are smart. They'll wait until you're right in the middle of, like, pulling the laundry out and you're busy trying to do something, right? And they can see and they'll be like, Mum, can I do that? They know the ways in which to ask a question because you might just say yes quickly. And I think, oh, you're so smart, you're so clever, you know, and I'll literally turn around and I'll be like, I'll listen, I'll be like, so you're asking if you could do X, Y, and Z, because when you repeat yourself, you actually teach your children that you heard what they said.
Right.
So I'll turn around and say, so you're asking if you can play golf for 30 minutes on the video. I go, okay, all right, I'll get back to you on that. Give me a minute and I'll get back to you. I need to think about that. And I'll pause it and I'll think about it. I can't answer that question right now. I'm here. But I'll think about it and then I'll come back to him and say, oh, okay. You know, like my husband loves golf, right? Well, right now there's no golf.
Something's happened to your sound, hon. I don't know what just happened on your end.
Let's just see.
Oh, that was better. I don't know what everything said. Yeah, much better.
So, like, you know, my husband loves golf. He's a big, I've spoken to you about, he's a big comic. He loves Marvel, DC, like whole comic stuff, right? That's my little, I mean, don't get me wrong, I do love it, but I go to more of the comic stuff because that's me, you know, being interested in the things that he's interested in, and we go and do that, right? But, you know, he loves golf, right? So now he's doing golf on the video game, right? He's doing that right now. So we're looking after my little grandson, and he sees Papa doing it, and he wants to have a go at it. So Papa lets him have a go, and it's them two together, right? So I'm like, oh, that's nice. They're doing a little bonding together, and it's sports, it's golf. So it's great. He's 6 years old. So he's really liked it. Then he'll come to me and he'll say, can I play golf today? And I'll be busy doing something. And I'll be like, okay, so you want to play golf today? All right, but you know it's only 30 minutes, right? You do know that. Yep, I know that, Nanny. I'm like, okay. So then, you know, I'll do whatever I'm doing and I'll get back to him. I say, oh, do you remember you asked me whether, yeah, you can do that? You'll get that time in the afternoon, okay, after we've had lunch or something like that. And he'll be like, okay. So I'll get back to him on it. But I don't feel the pressure, and I'm asking parents not to feel the pressure to always have to answer something on the spot. Always take a moment to go, let me think about that. You know, again, it's meeting in the middle ground. It's not because I said, it's not maybe, it's not, I'm not too sure. let me think about it for a moment. Because sometimes we do need to think about it for a moment, because we're trying to juggle several plates and get everything done on good timing, you know?
Yeah. Girl, I mean, like I said, I can freaking talk to you for hours. A lot of people are asking about the next season of the Super Nanny. What can you let us know? And then where can people find all the amazing stuff you're doing?
Well, I have told, so far, I've told people what I know, which is, you know, so far what I've heard is that the summertime, I'm hoping that families will be able to look forward to this second half of season 8. So far, I believe we've had maybe 10 episodes that have gone out on Lifetime. And I do believe on the Lifetime app, you can re-watch those 10, 11 episodes. So what I'm hoping is that in the summertime, they'll, you know, Lifetime will release the rest and we'll be able to watch those. I'm also hoping that there will be a season 9 and we'll have to work out and really come together how that can happen, if that does happen, to be able to continue. And everybody's been asking whether I'm still doing it, and of course I do what I do on camera, off camera. I provide private consultation, but I'm also providing public service too. So for those families, you know, that have a question and they want to ask me on Twitter, which is Joe_Frost, try and be concise with your question, because it will help me to answer it. And then also there's the email at joefrost.com. You know, so if you can, again, be concise in where the challenges are, then it can help me direct better in where I can help you resolve those challenges. And already, you know, I've been busy for 8 weeks now, doing that with many families, and trying to get through as many as I can, you know.
Dude, you really freaking are just absolute, like, serving people, and I respect, admire. I'm like one of your biggest champions. You know, as much whatever I can do to help my community, guys, spread the love. I really do think that I don't even just say mothers, like fathers as well in this time.
Yeah.
Like, as much as we can help anyone with children that may be struggling or just need new tips, please do either, you know, go over to her page, go to her website, email her, or go check out the episode that I did with her on Women of Impact on YouTube. And we will be releasing this on podcast as well, girl, because, like, your advice is so freaking fire. Like I said, even if you don't have kids, guys, you got to listen to her. So, Joe, Super Nanny.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. Always, Lisa.
Girl. Appreciate you too.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Take care,
guys. Take care, darling.
Bye, sweetie.
Bye. Bye, love. Bye.